So, The Bikeriders. This is one of my more anticipated movies of 2024. It actually had its premiere last year at I believe, the Telluride Film Festival last summer in 2023, and then eventually it was acquired by Focus Features, who distributed the film, and it just had its theatrical release. And there's some very, very interesting stars attached to this project. Also, Jeff Nichols, as a director, has been making movies for quite a while now. More
Mhm.
low key projects, but definitely projects that often get a lot of critical acclaim from just his stylistic perspective and also the types of stories that he tackles. But just considering where we are with a star like Austin Butler, of course, Jodie Comer, super talented and on the rise, and Tom Hardy sort of being one of those baked in reliable stars that we have lately. Very, very interested to check this one out. And I did go get a chance to check this one out this past weekend. And The Bikeriders is really a story that focuses on a 60s motorcycle gang. And this film is actually based on, in part, a true story. It's actually based on this photo book that was published by Danny Lyon. He was a filmmaker and a
Mm.
photographer, and he basically followed this motorcycle gang in the 60s. They've been renamed in this movie to the Vandals MC, but he followed them around to really just kind of capture their inner workings, their culture, their style, what that made them what they were, especially considering in the 50s and the 60s, motorcycle culture was on the rise at that particular time. And this particular motorcycle gang was based out of the Midwest in Chicago. And so the story is pretty much framed in that way. And a lot of it is told through the eyes of Jodie Comer's character, Kathy, who ends up being the wife of Austin Butler's character, Benny, who is one of the main members of the Vandals MC Motorcycle Club. And really the entire framing of this movie and an aspect of it that I actually enjoyed is the fact that it largely feels like it's constructed like a Martin Scorsese movie, like a Goodfellas, where
Mhm.
you're getting these sort of flashbacks, these accounts of certain situations that happened. It's very much sort of framed in the way of the rise, and sort of the peak and then ultimately the fall of a particular organization. So whereas Goodfellas is life in the mob, this is life in a motorcycle club. And you really kind of get to see some of the inner workings, the subculture that really developed and became popular at that time. But then also some of the darker elements too, in the fact that they were doing some illegal activity. They had a lot of stuff going on that would not fly in any stretch of the imagination, and ultimately would result in violence and potentially cost people's lives. And I really enjoyed it for that respect because a lot of movies do try to bite off of Scorsese style and sort of do that Goodfellas sort of approach, and it doesn't really work. But I think the reason that it worked here is because a lot of this movie, in the first half of it, it's kind of just a hangout movie. There's not
Mm.
truly a compelling story that's happening. You're really just following a scene of events, or a sequence of events, excuse me, that are sort of stitched together with scenes. And you're learning a little bit about the main members and the relationship that's developing between Benny and Kathy, and how that blossoms, and the leadership style that Tom Hardy as Johnny sort of portrays to the rest of the group, because he is the leader of this particular motorcycle club. He started it. You kind of just follow them from scene to scene. And then about midway through the movie is when stuff starts to go awry and you start to learn how they ultimately crumbled from within. But I really just like the opportunity to just kind of absorb the stylistic influences of this movie, the energy that it was trying to communicate, and just how we, I think, as an audience, get absorbed by this world. And if you really just
Mhm.
let it wash over you, it becomes, I think, a pretty satisfying experience. And it's not necessarily meant to be so much about the narrative as opposed to, I think, just what you would naturally experience sort of watching something unfold and just sort of being an observer of a particular lifestyle or of a particular subculture. From a performance standpoint, Jodie Comer, she's great. She has a really, really strong Illinois Midwest accent in the movie, which is a choice. I liked it because it just really grounded her in her character.
Mhm.
Austin Butler, he is as stoic as ever. He's great. He just looks really, really great in the costumes that he has, his hairstyle. He's one of the more cool, laid back members of the motorcycle club, and sometimes fades to the background, but you can sense this intensity that exists underneath him. And Tom Hardy, who really stands out in this movie. I think that this is probably the best performance from him in nearly a decade. I haven't
Mhm.
seen him do something this interesting since like that mid 2010s run he went on when he was making movies like The Drop or
Mhm.
Lock or The Revenant, when he was like actually trying and actually acting. lately,
Yeah,
you know, he's been doing a lot of the Venom movies. He's been doing some franchise stuff, and he hasn't acted as much as he used to. Just
that's
frankly, he
true.
hasn't been in as many films. But
Mhm.
this is kind of the most interesting work he's done in quite a while. He does have a voice. He does sometimes mumble underneath his breath. He does some of those Tom Hardy isms that I think we've become used to, where it's like, "What did you just say, bro? I didn't catch that. Say that again." But it's good. I like it. He's really charismatic and he has great chemistry with Jodie Comer and Austin Butler as well. Also, Michael Shannon's in this movie. He's great. He's fantastic. I really liked what he brought, and ultimately the whole cast adds a lot to the story. And so I think it's a really enjoyable film, really satisfying experience, and also just really engulfs you in what motorcycle culture probably was like at that time in the most authentic way. I think every frame that's created by Jeff Nichols and his team, everything looks gorgeous. Everything is framed beautifully. You get a real sense of being, I think, firmly established within that particular era. It truly takes you back and makes you feel like you're a part of this. And so it's sort of an immersive hangout experience that ultimately I really enjoyed.
And they should have used Don Tolliver's new album for the soundtrack, man. That Hearthstone Psycho, which is also a motorbike themed album. I think that would have been cool. But yeah, I can't wait. I still can't wait to watch this, man. That crew is so fire. I have to check it out. No matter what it's like. But yeah, very happy you got to see it, and can't wait to watch it myself, man. It sounds like it was decent.
Absolutely, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see. I think also just Austin Butler continue to ascend to these new levels because, a lot of people looked at him like, "Oh, you're still doing the Elvis thing, like you're still doing it." But now for me, he's like firmly away from that. Between Dune Part
Mm-hmm.
Two and this movie, it's like, all
Yeah,
right, he's shed himself of that. Of course, that was just such a heavy thing to take on.
it is.
It's one of the biggest
Mm-hmm.
personas we've ever known in pop culture, but now he's really, really establishing himself as a unique voice and a unique talent within Hollywood. So I'm all in on Austin Butler. I'm all in on Jodie Comer as well. Like both of them, they just have
Yeah, I
so much
like
ahead of
Jody,
them.
man.
She's great. She's really, really great, and she kind of holds this movie together. She's kind of the glue for this film. So really, really excited to see what they have in the future. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on the brand new film, The Bike Riders. If you've checked this out, hit us up and let us know what you think.